Hello, I want to show you what I did for my second grade class because even though I could use those websites to design my perfect classroom, something I learned in the last 2 years, no matter how much you want to have it a certain way, sometimes you gotta be creative and make things be purposeful to have success because sometimes you just gotta work with what you have and you can't really change it much. So this was my class. Um, on here, I'm gonna walk you through what I did. So I had storage here. This is kind of where students put the things that they would take home daily or at the end of the week, or the workbooks that they use for different blocks during the day. So after they use them, they put them back here because their desk didn't really have anywhere to put anything. And we kept birthdays here. I thought that was a good way to incorporate the class and make them feel like it was their classroom. We have the 3 standards of behavior over here. This is a behavior chart, which I modified later, but I started using it because I started in January, so they were already kind of used to this chart, so I just continued to use it, and I'll show you that better on the next slide. Here I had the Spanish posters that they had to use regularly, obviously alphabet, flag. Over here, I would put like announcements, reference information, the objectives for the lessons. This is kind of like the English posters corner. Well, these 4 that they could reference at any time. Later on, I turned this into a reading area. I put a rug here and I put pillows. And over here, I organized the books by genres, and they loved it so much. We had like daily 5 rotations. So one of the rotations was go to the reading corner, and with like 2 more students, so it was like 3 of them, and they absolutely loved doing that in here. Here I had the class jobs. So each student had a different job each week. Sometimes I put two students do the job if I felt like it needed 2 people. And I kept track. Over here I posted a paper with a roster with their names, and I kept track of who did what when, because I wanted to make sure that everybody had an opportunity and that it was that we had equity among genders, so everybody did every single job every time. And after everybody did all of the jobs at least once, then I started having second people do it. But also the way I picked who did what, I had a cup with their names, and I would pick people from the cup and ask them what job they wanted from the available jobs. And I will continue that way, but it had to be a job they hadn't done before until, everybody already did it. So then we started to repeat again. Um, what else? Over here, do I have community jobs? I made sure that I had a poster that showed different people of different ethnicities and different genders doing all kinds of jobs. So that was something they could reference often and just not have the one way to picture a profession. So they could view it as other people doing the job. Um, Oh, also here I have the chair because I would often have them sit in here as a group. Sometimes we did a circle, sometimes they sit with partners to do the pair and share for 2 minutes. And so I would sit here and talk with them. If sometimes I would sit on the floor with them, but this was kind of my space to have as a group. And of course, when I was doing lessons in the board, if they couldn't see good from their desk, they were welcome to come and sit here so they could see better. All right. So this is a behavior color chart. Superstar was the highest level that they could ever get. Then they had the great day, ready to learn, warning, consequence, and note home. So, excuse me. Every day they started on great day. So this is kind of like the 3 good ones. The ready to learn is kind of in the middle, and then these 3 bottom ones. So every day they started kind of in the middle and ready to learn, and they could go up 2 options up, or they could go 3 down. And this to me was effective in a way, but in a way it was too much. So the second year that I taught, I changed it. I didn't use this one. I changed it to, I did keep superstar on top, but then on great day, I put good choices. because I wanted them to have a reminder that that's one of our core standards that we want to follow. We want to make good choices. I kept Ready to Learn because I felt that's how everybody should start. So every day we did start in Ready to Learn. So every day is a fresh day. I kept Warning. And then down here, well, Warning actually, did I put Warning? Yeah, I think I put Turning. And then, yes, I did, sorry. But I just had a thumbs down, like bad choices, but I didn't want to write bad choices, so I kept that as Warning. Anyway, sorry for rambling. And Consequence, I took away the note home. The consequence, I explained to them what the different consequences were going to be. Sometimes they lost 5 minutes of recess. Sometimes I had to message the parent if it was something that continued to happen multiple times. Sometimes they had to write an apology letter or a reflection sheet to think about what they did wrong and how they could do it better next time. Sometimes it was a really persistent problem and they had to be referred to the front office or other consequence. So they knew that there was a variety of consequences and that there was a process to it. If it was just the very first time they did something, it was, not as severe, but as the behavior continued, then it continually got worse. So they definitely did not want to continuously get that. So yeah, every day they start new. When I was my first semester, because I started mid-year and the kids were kind of like all over the place and out of control, I had to have weekly prizes every Friday. If they scored, if they got 3 greens or higher, so that means they had to have 3 greens or superstar per week, they could pick a prize. So that was their goal for the week, to achieve that. And that really helped me because oh boy, they were hard. But this year, I think because I started from the beginning and I was so clear since August of my expectations, they behaved so much better. I didn't really felt like I had to use prices as much. So it was kind of just a reward alone for them to get a good color. And I use stickers more than actual prices. Like the first year I used a lot of candy, which I don't want to encourage candy. So I kind of took a step back from that, and then I started giving them stickers or erasers, just little things that I found at the dollar store, pencils, little toys like those party gifts that you get for like goodie bags and birthday parties. I got a huge bag of that, and then I will have them pick some of those. So yeah, I had a variety of things, but I did it more like once a month. I didn't do it every week. And then every month they got a calendar. So, and I changed, it wasn't based on how many greens or blues they got. The second year I did it, it was based on points. I gave them class to your points. So once they got 100 points, depending how many points they have is how many prizes they could pick. Right? So if they got like 100 points, they could pick like one prize at the end of the month. If they got 200 points, then they could pick 2 prizes, something like that. And then the monthly calendar, they got a new one every month, and they just had to take it home every day, and the parents had to sign it. So for those of you that haven't taught young kids, I think on my experience, parents want to know. Parents want to know how their day went, and they want to know all kinds of stuff. And I didn't really have time to every day be messaging them back how they did. So this was kind of like an easy, quick way for me to communicate with them daily, but also it put accountability back on the students because they had to explain to their parents if they got a bad color. So instead of me telling them, hey, your student got in trouble today for this or this or that, if they got a yellow or a red, they will have to tell their parent, well, I got a yellow today because I did this, or I got in red today because I refused to do this. So they had to explain. And sometimes parents would ask me because they didn't agree or the kid didn't remember. But most of the time, the kids explain and parents didn't really ask me. So I thought that enhanced responsibility and ownership on them. So I think that's a positive thing. So these are my posters that I have. As you can see, parts of a story, genres of literature, what to do when you don't know how to read a word, how to use a dictionary. I feel like all of these, it was something they could use anytime they were reading. Here we had a competition of readers, so we kind of started keeping track on here, and this is a community poster I mentioned. And later on, as we started creating our own anchor charts, these kind of posters got covered, but they were good to use when I didn't have anything else that I needed to put up. This is the class jobs that we had. So I had here little papers with all the students' names. And then I had a cup that I would put all the little papers in, or I would use the sticks and I would pull one out and they would tell me what job they wanted that hadn't been taken yet. And this, you will think this is silly, pencil sharpener, but in second grade, at least with that class, sharpening was a coveted job, and it was very disrupting and it was very challenging. So I had to have one person assigned to do it to kind of keep the peace and to keep it going because it could get crazy. All right, moving on. This is how it looks. So to remind you back, when you first walk in, it looks like this. Then when you go look this way, it looks like this. So I started the year having the desks like couples because I thought that was best. I thought that would ensure everybody saw me at all times and I could see them as well, and they will have somebody to work with. And they have a little basket of materials that they shared. I thought this was good for a while, but it became challenging and I started getting creative. I later changed it into a U or a horseshoe shape, facing, like open this way, and they're all facing this way. And that worked for a little while, but also became problematic. And in the end, I found the best way to have them was in little groups of 4. So I will put 4 desks. So over here, I will put 2 more, all facing each other. So they're all kind of looking to the center. But of course, like I put them sideways so they could see the board better. But they were in groups of 4. So I had, I think, like 5 little groups. And that worked the best because I had kids of all different levels together so they could support each other in different ways. Back here, I had the monthly announcements. So like PTA newsletter, school newsletter, the lunch calendar, the calendar of events, things like that that would change once a month. I had them there because they like to know stuff. So when they have free time, they could go there and check it out. Here we had the schedule of the day. There, especially some students are very, very wanting to know what's happening when. And so this was very helpful for them. And I don't know if I show you, but, or if I had it on this picture, but next to the board, I had to put a clock because those students really needed to know what was going on. And here, when you first walk in, we had a desk with tissues and hand sanitizer, and I put a trash can here too, so they could, wipe their nose, put the tissue in the trash can, and get hand sanitizer away from other people. And that stayed like that for a while. Also, I started doing in the morning, we have to take lunch count. And because kids were getting ready and whatnot, I will pick a different student every day, and they will stand right here, or every week, I should say. They will stand right here with a pencil and their lunch count, which is a little paper with everybody's names. And they have to ask them, are you having hot lunch or did you bring your own lunch? And they will write it up for me. They will do a check mark or they will do an X. And I will send that to the front office. And that was very helpful because it saved me time and they felt empowered to have that job. Let me see. I already talked about the daily 5 rotation. Back here, I had the materials for the classroom. Some of them were for students, some of them were just for me, and I had them organized by subjects. So when I needed something, I knew where to look at. Back here, obviously, I had the files with their data, resources organized. This little table here, I used to keep track of who had turned in homework and who hadn't done it at all. Back here, I had artwork and things that they would give me or things that were just for me to reference. And my desk was, I liked it in the back because they could always, they could all be in front of me so I could see everybody at once. But honestly, most of the time that they were in class, I would never be on my desk. It would be very weird. Most of the time I was with them in the front, in the floor, or I was working with them at small tables in the back or just walking around. This right here looks like a hot mess of books. At this point, I had them organized. I hadn't organized them yet, but I did went through them and organized them by genres and by language because I did teach Spanish mostly. So I put some in English and some in Spanish. So when they had to read in English, they knew which ones to pick, and when they had to read in Spanish, they knew which ones. And they didn't stay here. I ended up putting them over here in the front where the black organizer was, next to the reading area, so they could pick whichever book they wanted. And this I also changed later, organized it better with baskets, which I will show you in a little bit. But they were mostly my supplies, or even if they were supplies for the students, were things that I would give to them that they wouldn't get on their own. So this is kind of a close-up of how it was kind of organized at first. I put sticky notes for my labels, and I kind of changed it up a little later when I had more time. This is a view from the corner of my desk. We also did recycle in our class. So this was the box for recycling. And over here was the board for math. So my posters for math were there, and they could reference them at any time that they needed assistance. And well, this on top, I should say, this 4 and this one were math. And actually these 3 were for writing. They'll help them have different techniques to help them write. And these were like my social studies posters. And then again, when I created anchor charts with them, I would sometimes put them on top of this because it was what we were learning at that time. And these were the bathroom passes. Here I had supplies, like art supplies, some books, some notebooks that they could use and they could grab as they needed. So I wanted them to access it. This was just another random storage spot. And this here actually organized my lessons per subject and per week. So for example, I would have 3 folders on each little slot. And so English, math, and Spanish, for example. And then inside the folder, I would have the worksheets or the materials that I needed for those lessons for one day. So I had enough for, I think, 10 days to put in here or something like that. And here, this is one of my challenges. And as you can see, I did have portable walls. I was able to move them back, so that created me bigger space because before the walls were right about here, and that gave me no space at all to have group time in the front. So I was able to get my husband and somebody else to help move it back so I could have that extra space in the front. And of course, I had the kidney table here, which I use a lot for small groups. But this here was storage that really bothered me. So I ended up putting a string, or getting my husband, I should say, to put a string from this wall to the other wall near the board. And we put a black curtain. And that black curtain hid all the storage. So pretty soon before school started, we had that curtain there, and it wasn't a distraction because that was a huge distraction before. And the kids knew that they were absolutely not allowed to go behind the curtain or they would get in huge trouble. So they really didn't do it. In the back of this wall, I put science posters that I had, and also students' projects all around here. Students' projects that they have made and they wanted to share. So this is what I was telling you about the bookshelves, how I ended up organizing them. These baskets I actually got at the dollar store. And of course I had low ones. The low ones had things that students were able to access during certain times. And the ones that are higher are things that I only gave to them, when I felt it was needed. So instead of having this crazy stuff, $3 can make wonders. And at this point I had organized the books, so they weren't there anymore. But I started putting here binders and books that were for me to teach and help the students. And this is what's in the other side of the wall. So right on this door, just as my pup, right on this door, there was a cafeteria here. So there were times that it was very challenging for us to have class because there were the kids having lunch right here, very loud. And this back space, all the way down, there was another classroom kind of set up like mine. So because this was a long hallway, we both fit fine in there. But we couldn't get too loud because they will hear us and we will disrupt their class. And likewise, if they got too loud, they will disrupt our class. So we did have a couple of times that we disrupted each other, but for the most part, we were kind of able to keep it calm and do what we needed to do. So in this walls where we put the posters, and these are the sticks with the names. On this wall over here, I was able to put hooks, and students were hanging up their backpacks there. They would put the lunch boxes on this table so they didn't bring them in the classroom. And they also put the water bottles on the table. So if they wanted water, they just walk out here and drink water, because the water fountain was all the way down there, and it was so much better for them to have their own water. And then all over this wall, of course, I used it every time I made more charts. Especially I made a lot of GLAD anchor charts. I put them on this wall when we didn't need to look at them every day anymore. But they still could learn from it, and they liked showing off their work that way. And also, we did kind of grew seeds, we grew beans. So if you are in the position like I didn't really have a window in the classroom, we were able to use these windows here. So in the window, I kind of made with paper a pretend um, greenhouse, and in little baggies, I put their beans inside a paper towel, a wet paper towel, and I believe all of them except for two sprouted. So if you want to do that project, make sure you do like 4 extras so you can give to any students that don't sprout. But these windows will get sun during a certain time of the day, and we were able to still grow plants that way. Okay, now I want to show you a short, quick video so you can kind of see better how it looks. Okay, so this is a video of what it looked like the day before I started teaching. Oh, I forgot to tell you right here. Hang on. Right here, this blue thing is where they have the daily rotation. So every week they had a different rotation with a different group. So this is where they will come to see what group they were in. I did it that way because that's how they were used to do it. But I didn't do it that way the next year because it was kind of a pain. But if you have older students, it might be good. I just think for little ones, it's kind of very challenging to do it that way. You waste a lot of time trying to figure out where you have to go, what you have to do. But yeah, at this point, it was way better and way more ready. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but I did put the rug and the pillows right here on the front. Right here, I put it before we started. Okay, now I'm gonna show you my classroom that I actually had this last year, or this year I should say. Okay, so this is the classroom I had this year. Right now, when you first enter the classroom, this was way smaller space, so I had to get creative. I ended up putting my word wall here and anchor charts, but unfortunately, I did not take pictures or videos of that. So this is kind of how it started. Over here on this black filing cabinet, I had students' data folders because this could be locked, and I had a lot of supplies like tissue, art supplies, hand sanitizer, extra binders, and organizers. These are the books that I use or I plan to use. Here I also organized all the books that I will use for different things. So this shelf was all Spanish by different subjects like science, social study, math, blah, blah, blah. This is the same thing but English, and this was math. So they were all organized by subject, so it was easy to find. Or on this other filing cabinet, I had the different supplies, like actually the supplies that I used the most, like markers. I had filing folders that I organized different resources, like what I was gonna use for Mother's Day, what was I gonna use for Martin Luther King Jr., for Thanksgiving. So I had all that organized to help me, and I didn't get to fill all the folders because once the year started, everything got extremely crazy. But I had good intentions, and I think something I should use in the future. This right here, I actually had like assessments that I would do for them in anticipation. After, I will also collect them here. This plastic thing is actually the sub tub where I could have copies and things prepared for a substitute teacher that came while I was out. And this is a radio that became very handy. And just different, the folders that I mentioned before that I had organized per day, I did them like this time. I organized them by day, put the papers that I was gonna need each day. I wanna say that I did it every week, but I'm not gonna lie, I tried and some weeks got crazy and it didn't happen. Back here, I had a challenge for them for reading. I think reading is huge, so I was always pushing them to read. So here I would keep track of their reading logs to kind of encourage a friendly competition. And as you can see, I did put them, I had desks, but I put them in groups of 4 and some 5 because I had 17 students, but started with 19. So I was trying to make it work. They were a good mix. These baskets, they had dry erase boards and markers and erasers to be able to use. A lot of the activities I did, they had to grab the dry erase board and write whatever I was asking them to write. And then they had a good place to put it back. So it was good because it was centered at their table and they didn't have to all make a line in the front or somewhere else to find it. Of course, my desk again towards the back, in a way I have the same format as much as I could than the other classroom. I put the kidney table next to it. And over here, I had all kinds of books by levels organized. And those are the baskets. And then I actually got more. So I had all these up here also full of these baskets with books organized because again, I needed lots for English and Spanish. Down here, I had storage for art and PE equipment for recess and things like that. All these were like math manipulatives and some language arts manipulatives. Back here I had like papers and folders, notebooks. Over here I have a lot of other math manipulatives. That's a projector, which I ended up setting up around here. This here is what I put the lesson objectives. And here actually I put a cognates board, or those papers that you write on. And this wall became all covered with my kids' art, so they were always giving me and they wanted me to show it, to show that I cared. So I had to make it, you know, not as pretty, but it was their classroom and they felt like it. Over here I would put different kinds of posters because we would do a lot of anchor charts and I didn't have a lot of wall space. So I had to keep putting on top whatever it was more recent. And this actually got changed after we started because I got 2 computers after we started for them to work on. So I kind of had to move the desks up this way so they were closer together because I had to set up the computers back on this wall. And I also got a book filing thing that went over here, like one of those like round things. Anyway, it was a small space and I made it work the best I could, but it was small for sure. This was probably my favorite thing. The previous teacher that decided to not officially teach and just be a support teacher let me have this rug, and which I love because I feel like it defined a lot of it. And it might look small, but actually all my students, or most of them, fit in here. So I will sit here a lot, but more often than not, I will sit on the floor with them and do the whatever lesson we were doing. Also, this got changed. It started up organized like this, but as the year went on, I was able to get a better bookshelf. One of those are kind of ladder looking, so it was from like here all the way to over here, and it will fit a lot of different books, and they were also organized by genre and by language. My behavior color chart that I did use, I put right here. Over here I had other things organized, like just these are things I could use during recess, like puzzles, like indoor recess puzzles and blocks. These are just older books that I needed and older materials. Like they all had their materials on their boxes. I gave them a box, like you see these here. I gave them a box to each with their own materials. But I had extras here, so when they ran out, they could pick up from the basket and refill their boxes. And we would do that like every like 3 months. We will go ahead and refill them. So they started with this right here, but they ended up putting this on their desk, and then they would use this to put their lunch boxes. This right here, I recommend it. Well, this is my box tops collection jar, but here is my cup where I have my sticks with their names. Here, this red box, I recommend it because there's always things that you gotta give them before they go home, or just something important that you don't want to forget. So that's kind of what I would use it for. And when kids were absent, I had a folder that I would put their papers that they were absent. So when they got back, I will know to look in there for them and give it to them. And here I use this in different ways. Like sometimes I will put papers there that they had completed that I needed to check later. Sometimes they had coloring sheets that they could grab when they were done with their work. This is a calendar that we went over every day. And actually, right here is very bare, but as the months went on, I kept stacking the months on this wall so they could see the success that the months followed. This board back here was very useful when I was doing small group. I could show them things. And then again, this I used to put a lot of my word wall and anchor charts. And yeah, this is how it looks, bathroom pass, numbers. So I didn't have as much wall space, but I tried to keep the essentials and that everything was purposeful, but that still felt like a, happy, welcoming classroom when they came in. And also, let me show you this before we move on from this. Actually, it's the last thing I'm showing you. At this point, I don't think they were labeled yet, but these baskets I label. I think one of the videos that we watched had that they were labeled. I did that too. Like I put one for like inbox or to file or pending, like if I had to take it to the front office or something. And then on here, I had like English, Spanish, and math. So I had resources for that day available there. And of course, I'm not gonna lie, I wanna say I kept it up all tidy all the time, but no, it becomes very challenging. You get too many papers every day. But I think if I would have made it a routine to take care of them at least weekly, it would have been more effective. And yeah, those are my two classrooms. I hope you see some ideas that you like that you might be able to incorporate. And if you have any feedback of how I could have made something better, I would love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching. I know it was long, but as you probably can tell, I do have a little hard time making things very brief. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it and have a great week.